It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. It's a Friday, kids. We've been doing our talk show for a while now. We don't know where y'all have been. Gary, how are you?
I'm doing really good, and I just saw this headline that I'm sure everybody will agree with. New York Times, soaring costs under Biden are only more expensive on paper.
It's like the question I asked John Taffer about the, on with bar rescue, all those folks that go into debt, and the one bar owner going into almost $1 million in debt. And I asked John, do they not take it seriously? Do they just see it as numbers on paper? And here we are. But isn't that the mindset with all debt? Think about it. That's today's mindset.
Yeah, but what they're saying is, I don't think that's what they're saying. What they're saying is, you're actually not paying cash for higher prices. That all of the inflation that people are feeling is, basically, like we say, a profit that you make on paper. That it's all on paper. That it doesn't exist in real life. That you haven't been affected by it. So when we talk about, for example, unrealized profits are not a profit until you cash out. And so that's a profit on paper. But what they're claiming is, by some bizarro analysis, that the American public has not felt the actual inflation because it's only somewhere on paper. Whatever the hell that means.
Well, no, I mean, I think the mindset still applies. Because think about it. If the mindset is that you don't care about your personal debt or national debt, or they're trying to carry that over and apply it in this bizarre way here to this equation. Well, you don't really feel it. It's only on paper. Well, how can that be when my account's being drained when I swipe my card?
Well, I mean, if you're trying to make the case that people don't use cash, so everything is just electronic numbers, and so it's only on paper or virtual. Number one, it's not
bizarre.
It's bizarre because it's not true.
Yeah,
you're actually and so if you're at your credit card limit, you're still making your monthly payments.
Yeah. If you can keep up with them.
Right, and if you can't keep up with them, you've got to make the late payments on it. So if they're trying to say, look, because I'm not even sure what the argument is, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it is bizarre.
It's like, well, okay, if you've accumulated debt but haven't paid the entire amount off yet, well, then you really haven't been affected by it because you haven't really been affected by the Bidenomics inflation. Because you haven't had to pay all of it off yet. Yeah, but you're paying a higher monthly payment than you were paying because you had to buy products that cost more and you put them on your charge card. Otherwise, I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, it's like they're in that moment, in Tombstone where everything's quiet and Kurt Russell's leaving town, and you're about to all of a sudden, hell's coming, and tell him hell's coming, and or I'm coming and hell's coming with me. All hell's going to break loose when people can't keep up with their credit card bills. If they're saying this is almost like when Obama said, well, the national debt's not a problem. And we said, that's like saying your bedroom's on fire, but it's all cool because you're in the kitchen.
Right.
And this is what it sounds like here. If that's what they're implying, we don't know. But if that's what they're implying, that, look, it's you've just been swiping a card. Then it's even worse, because the point is what we have been saying all along, and we said it after the first of the year. Everybody's going to have to come to terms with the money they spent in the fourth quarter and the money they've been putting on credit cards. I saw some more analysis about how that money, the savings that people had that they had built during COVID, because government money was being doled out and people weren't spending as much because they weren't driving to work and they weren't eating out at lunch. And then they built up the savings. All that's gone. And now we're at that point, and I think that happened actually. They measured that at the end of last summer. And then it was about credit cards. Well, you get to a credit card limit, and that's it. You're done. I mean, there's nobody, and it will be just like it was after 2008, 2009. Underwriters come in and say, look, we don't know who's solvent, who's not, so we're going to just slowly reduce your credit limit, your credit lines, and you're out of luck. There's nowhere else to go. So if they're saying that, well, up until now you haven't felt it, well, the point I would make is, yeah, but wait just a second, and it will only take a second before we go over that threshold.
When I was a bill collector a long, long time ago, and I collected line of credit, I collected credit cards, mostly line of credits, unsecured line of credits.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because most banks got out of that line of credit business, and then all of a sudden, when they did, I started getting, ads or flyers and emails from my bank saying, "Well, you have a line of credit on your credit card if you wish to have it," which is separate from your. And I'm like, okay, you didn't get rid of it. You simply, put it into, you probably are doing a lot less of it.
They merged the accounting, basically.
Right, they merged the accounting is what they did.
I still have 3 banks that have the old-fashioned, lines of credit directly through the bank, and it's not attached to a card. But I've never used them, and the reason is because it's extremely dangerous. I think it's extremely risky behavior.
And so when we did that both on credit cards, if you were at your credit limit, you were delinquent. Odds are we suspended or canceled your credit card.
Yeah,
until you got it down. And a lot of times, if you had problems, you did not get the credit limit back that you had, even if you solved the problem. Yeah. It was like, no, because you're a risk at this particular. You're a risk, and especially if they go a long time, and it's a tough because it doesn't work the same way anymore. But I would actually get calls from bank managers saying, "Yeah, this guy's come in. How was it collecting from him?" And if you say they were very proactive, I called once, and they called me all the time, and paid off and never missed anything. Well, then a bank manager would have looked at it back then and said, "Oh. Okay, so they got in trouble, but they paid it all off. Yeah, all right. So we're thinking of keeping the credit line the same. What do you think?" It's like, well, I'm not getting blamed for this. No, no, it was like, well, no, I think they're because you can tell by a person's character when you're collecting a bill, and their character is they call you and they're worried about it every day, and and I had this a lot of times because I related to it just like you related to it because you and I. Absolutely in our lives panic and always have panicked no matter whether we were dirt poor or a lot better off today finally after retirement age.
Right. And now the banks are willing to I'll lend you anything. No, but, I don't need it.
But I know you think the same way as I do. That's never changed.
Well, no,
I still if I forgot to pay a bill and I had to pay interest on it, I'm ticked off at myself for either forgetting, which I haven't done. The only thing I've ever been late on was a car payment or a car insurance payment when I was mailing it in about 25 years ago. And I thought I actually thought I mailed it, and it was down in between my seats in my car.
Well, it's paranoia because to me it's unsettling, and it's a threat to, being able to provide a roof over my head and, food on the table and the whole thing. So I've always taken it seriously because, people work hard for their money. I'm in radio. I can't say that I work hard, but I do show up. And it comes from the times when you were making a lot less and you knew. Look, if you didn't keep that credit line pure, if you did not keep your credit established, if something did come up. I mean, I remember needing a tire, and it was look, you're going to buy one tire for the car. You're not going to buy all four. You probably need all four, but you're going to replace the worst one. And my dad and I had yesterday was my birthday, and my dad called, and we had a talk show. It was over an hour long, as we all often do, and talking about the cost of things. And he says the same thing. His concerns at almost 91, the same that you and I have talked about, and that is for the generations now, and how they're going to afford things. Because we had the one article about the one financial expert that said your buying power is not coming back. The buying power you had in 2018, 2019 is not going to return. I would put an asterisk there and say, unless we expand the economy in the way that we're capable of doing as a nation, and I don't see that happening in the next several years. So to that extent, in the near term, he's absolutely right. But my dad and I were talking about that, and my dad's like, I don't know how people do it. My dad sent some caretakers that they have as they go through life and have caretakers come to the home. They sent them some goodies, some cookies. And Dad said, can you believe it was, whatever it was, $50, $60. He goes, but they really enjoyed them, and they sent us a nice note and the whole thing, and I was just so happy with it. He said, but, you think about the cost of everything. And I said, well, you live in a major metro area like we do, and I think about my adult kids and how they're going to survive down the road and the generations to come. Because if we don't understand the very basis of capitalism and that idea of expanding wealth and how it benefits everyone, it increases the buying power for every family when we do it right. I've said for a long time, capitalism is the original crowdfunding. And this is where people and when you have the quiet quitter, act your wage mentality, I don't know how to solve that, but it was created in a very short period when we sent people home and paid them more to stay home in some cases than they were making on their job. And you fully expect people to come back and go, oh, I'm ready to work hard now. It didn't pan out that way, and I don't know how you change that mindset. But at some point, we've got to stop doling out money as taxpayers.
As you and I said the other day when we talked about it, it's such a, personally, as an individual, that is such a toxic mindset to have if you're in the workforce.
Yes. For the individual.
For the individual. The individual believes, the individual who talks about, quiet quitting, or what the hell was the other one, the bad showing, where you walk in, you show your
Make a showing in the morning in the coffee break room,
right. You go to the coffee, you see everybody, then you walk right out.
Yeah.
Whatever. If you're attempting to avoid work because you don't believe you're being paid fairly, and you're not, because this is happening mostly at young ages when we talk about the quiet quitting.
Right.
You don't realize, especially early on when you're in the workforce, that it is a tremendous learning opportunity to make the jump to the next one. This isn't, my dad told me back in 1969 when I was 14 years old, he said, this thing where you held a job for 30 years, that's gone.
Yeah.
So he told me that.
Right.
Think about that. 55 years ago. Wow. Over a half a century ago, he told me that.
Yeah.
And so you see it now, and I've got particularly one friend that you know that is in commercial real estate, and I've told the story of how it's not the same now. You jump for that next salary, and it's getting to the point where she would ask me questions. So I've only been here a year and a half, and I don't know if I'm ready, but this company's offering me whatever. I mean, $50,000 more a year. You go.
Right.
Well, but I feel guilty because I've only been there for a year and a half. Then they should sign you to a contract.
Right. Well,
it's about
that's it.
It's about what's in my best interest. But it's like they're trying to make a virtue signaling that society somehow is wrong instead of focusing on themselves and the opportunity that they have to learn and grow and then take that for a lot more money in the next job, because I have found out, because it's what you find out for the most part in radio, that if you don't move, you're never going to get what you're worth. Or if you don't threaten to leave, you know, if you don't threaten, it's not the quiet quitting, I'm going to be lazy. You work your butt off. You go, okay, not being paid. This offer is over here. All right, I don't have a contract.
Yep.
I'm going.
Yep.
And so that's the reality. But if you really care about yourself, if you have self-love, you're not trying to get away with stuff, because self-love is just like your kids. You love them, which means you discipline them, and the same for when you're an adult.
Yeah.
If self-love is about what does it take, what is the sacrifice I'm going to have to do to make sure that I become as productive as possible so I can put myself in the best possible position for success, to acquire wealth, that then I can choose where I go in life instead of somebody else.
Right.
You know, dictating where I go in life, which would be government or whatever.
If a significant portion of a generation has lost sight of that or never had it, I don't know how you reteach it or teach it.
All right, we're not sure if we have anything to talk about today.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we're not really sure.
Have to
so we'll
look some things up.
Well, you know, it's a Friday show. We'll try to fake our way through. We're gonna.
Yeah.
It's Quiet Quit Friday.
Quiet quitting. We're gonna act our wage. Hey, we're in radio. This is gonna get really bad.
What? Act our wage?
What wage?
Hello. How are you?
Free leftovers in the break room.
We've got some early Genesis to play here overnight.
Right.
We're going to play real long songs so we don't have to do any work.
27-minute long songs.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
This preventative maintenance tip is brought to you by Hot Shot Secret, the country's #1 fastest growing oil and additive company. If you've been driving a diesel any length of time, you know diesel fuel quality can be an issue. There are U.S. standards that diesel fuel is supposed to meet, like cetane number, lubricity, aka wear protection, deposit control, but oftentimes the fuel at the pump falls short. Let's highlight diesel fuel's lubricity. Diesel fuel in the United States must have enough lubricity so the fuel does not produce a wear scar greater than 520 microns. The U.S. is much more lax on this specification, which leads to more fuel system failures here in the U.S. compared to other parts of the world. Without the proper lubrication, you run the risk of fuel pump and injector failures. This is why a premium additive is needed to keep lubricity levels in spec, to keep the fuel system protected and avoid costly repairs and downtime. Add Hot Shot Secret EDT Plus Winter Defense, a 7-in-1 anti-gel fuel booster at every fill-up to keep your fuel's lubricity within specification of U.S. standards and the Engine Manufacturers Association recommendation for lubricity to keep you from gelling. Learn more about the science behind diesel fuel and Hot Shot Secret's EDT Plus Winter Defense at hotshotsecret.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Mayorkas making the rounds again yesterday. Even CBS challenged him. We'll get into how they're trying to BS what they actually believe, because when you break it down, and that's been the theme this week, just break down everything. Break down and actually tear into the issue and find out whether they're completing the sentence or not, or whether they're lying to you by omission.
Right.
So we will get to that one, and the Democrats have no self-awareness at all. that coming up. Yeah.
The Bonus Show.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, where do we? I don't even know. I'm looking at things. I was like, I don't know where to start. All right, let me do this because I did end talking about Democrats not having self-awareness. And this is where the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released a report Thursday attacking Trump hotels for leasing rooms to paying foreign governments while he was president.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
And Ranking Member Jamie Raskin accused the president of violating the Constitution's emollients clause by failing to divest from his business empire and allowing his business to accept millions of dollars in payments from some of the most corrupt nations on earth. Now, as we know, I think there was $7.5 million from foreign governments staying at his hotel while he was president, but voluntarily, all the profits from those stays, as Trump's son Eric said yesterday, all went to the federal treasury.
Right.
If you're trying to make the case, number one, if you're trying to make the case that Trump benefited from financially from being president of the United States, you can't make that argument.
You can't. The guy that didn't take a salary, and also, as you point out, or as his son pointed out, voluntarily, those proceeds went to the Treasury.
So he never took a paycheck for being president.
Right.
Donated that all, to different charities.
Right.
And then all the profits from any of the stays from foreign governments went directly to the U.S. Treasury.
Right.
And so you're saying, all right, what is the problem there? If there's a constitutional, thing there, you already went down that path.
Right.
Didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So what are you trying to do? They're trying to sit there and go, look what Trump did.
Yeah. Yeah.
In order to somehow, in their delusional mind, get Biden off the hook.
Right.
Well, there's a few things here. With Trump, number one, he didn't take a salary as president. Number two, any of the profits that were made, according to his son, all went to the federal treasury. And he goes, and this is well known.
Right.
We voluntarily did that. Raskin was saying, well, no, you didn't abide by the agreement. He goes, to hell we didn't.
Right.
We did that. So if they're trying to make the case that Trump enriched himself by being president, you can't make that case. But where they have no self-awareness is if you sit for a moment and you say, that's the case you're making against Trump, well, then, my God, Biden really screwed up.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me what business Biden is in.
Right.
You can't tell me what business his family is in. Nobody can. The only business he can be in is influence peddling.
Right.
You actually make it worse for Biden by promoting this.
Right.
And it's like they don't even realize that.
Well, it's an entire list of known businesses that Trump and the Trump organization owns. That entire umbrella is broad. And so you ask yourself, well, why now? Well, it's January of 24. The GOP must be getting close. You look at what happened as we were going into the end of the year. And when they voted on the official impeachment inquiry, it was bound to get serious. So now, this is, some poor attempt at retaliation, as you mentioned, to try and make the two the same. Look, but the first thing that hit me is, well, wait, you're kind of saying Trump did it too. And if you're saying too, that means you agree that Biden did it.
Right.
So, okay, let's hash it out on both levels. As we've always said, it's, Trump's son, goes, you said during the pre-show meeting, this is reminiscent of the Trump Tower meeting with Veselnitskaya, where the media was going to drop this bombshell. And then Donald Trump Jr. came out on social media and said, whoa. Here's the chain of emails. and disarmed it completely. Here's the emails and the whole setup of and then talked about it openly. And everybody was like, wah, wah, wah. And now you've got this situation where his other son, basically points out and says, well, no, this was known, and this money, these proceeds were voluntarily given to the Treasury. This is totally on the up and up.
Well, let's approach it from the point of view that Trump is wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's just
assume
for the sake of that what Trump did.
Yeah.
Because, and as we said, it was impossible for him to divest from all of his. That's what they wanted to do, divest. And go, well,
right.
How do you do that?
Right.
Because there's never been a president that has been involved in so many different businesses. How do you divest?
Right.
From it.
Right.
And luckily he has the Attorney General of New York trying to help him divest. No, but let's say for the sake of the argument, Trump is wrong. That Trump was wrong for putting the businesses in the hands of his son, and then any perceived conflict of interest because he's in a legit business. Nobody's saying that the business that Trump was in was not a legitimate business. We know exactly what his business was.
Yeah.
Nobody had to research. Nobody had to do any type of long investigation or put out subpoenas to find out Trump's financial records. They're out there. And so, but let's say Trump is still wrong for what he did. That he put the businesses under his son's management, and anything that came in from a foreign government, those profits went immediately to the Treasury. If Trump was wrong, well, then Biden should be in jail if you're trying to make the comparison.
Right. And that's the thing. If you're on the road to convict Trump here with this, then you're going to do the same with Biden. There's no way you're not. You're saying, because that's the implication. Well, Trump did it too. Did what? Are you saying Biden did something?
Right.
There's no self-awareness. None.
And that was the first thing I thought of. I go, do they even think? And I just think there's so much hatred and emotion.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, that hatred is an emotion. Mm-hmm. It's a very negative emotion that they don't even realize when they're, cutting their own political throat.
Right.
Because it was the first thing I go, okay, well, what's this here? All right. Well, didn't he donate, I thought, those profits? There it is. There's his son saying, yeah,
right.
All the profits were donated. I'm
right.
like, well, then if they're saying that what Trump did was wrong,
right.
Well, then do they even realize that they're indicting their own president, their own guy?
Right.
Because you can't tell me what business he was in. The only business that he was in was either influence peddling, bribery, or, as the fallback position is, and maybe that's why we haven't heard a lot about it over the last couple of weeks, because I heard our show and went, maybe that isn't the strongest position to take, which is that the entire Biden family is corrupt.
Yeah.
His brothers are corrupt.
Yeah.
His wife is corrupt.
Yeah.
Everybody took advantage of Joe. Everybody made money off Joe, and everybody knew that his brothers, Joe's brothers, and his son was selling fake access to the president and not delivering, but then taking all that money, knowing that it would look suspicious, and putting it through all these bank accounts and, fake corporations to enrich the entire Biden family except Joe.
Yeah.
And Joe knew nothing about it, and his whole family was screwing him over. And the media is like, we're okay with that. Well, because when you break it down, what they were trying to say, the illusion of influence peddling, that's why we said, okay, let's follow that through.
Right.
And that's something that, just like they're doing, you've got conservatives doing on Harvard, they've got to do the same thing and break it down and go, okay, here's what the Democrats said. Let's break it down. What does this mean?
Right.
What does this mean? Oh, this means the entire Biden family is corrupt, except Joe, and they all screwed him over. So I think we should take love out of the equation, family love out of the equation.
Yeah, clearly it doesn't exist.
That's a pretty bad argument when the entire family is screwing him over.
Love is not love, apparently.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And-
Love is money.
Yeah, exactly. And it reminds, if you look at it, it's not even moving the goalpost anymore. You're moving the entire game. It's like, okay, everybody out of the stands, we're going down the road to another stadium. It's because, remember they went after Comer and the land deal. Well, see, look at what he did. And he's like, I got documents. It was perfectly legal. Nothing out of the ordinary here.
And that went nowhere.
That went nowhere. And then after all this time, coming up on the 20th, it will be a full 3 years that Trump has not been president. So it's taken them 3 years to get around to something that, by the way, was not hidden.
No, it wasn't hidden.
It's an analysis that they shaped into something that is nothing.
Well, believe me, if you take money from your corporation and give it to the government, to the U.S. Treasury, there's a paper trail for that.
Oh, man, there is a big paper trail, and that's the problem. How do you not, if you put this together?
You're right, there's nobody who hides the fact that they're giving profits so people don't think that there is any type of perception of influence peddling.
Right.
You take the profits and give it to the government. That's something that that's something you're not going to hide. Let's hide that we're giving money to the U.S. Treasury.
Right.
Let's hide that we're actually not doing influence peddling.
Right.
I mean, this is the delusion that they're attempting to sell the American public.
And how did they not walk this through when they were putting this together?
I don't know.
How did they not see something that was right in front of them and go, look, we're going to get burned because he voluntarily gave the proceeds, the organization voluntarily gave the proceeds to the Treasury. There's nothing here. They went out of their way to make sure that it was very open and transparent. So we probably shouldn't go down this road because we're going to get burned. There's no self-awareness. None.
No. Like I said, if Trump is wrong, then Biden is really wrong.
Exactly.
From the evidence that we know
you
right
and I have been
now.
saying this, and we've been saying this, by the way, the whole Achilles we believed was going to be Trump's businesses, okay, because there's so many. And it's like, okay, that's where they'll go eventually, and they tried a couple of times here and there, and they've done this before. We had foreign actors that were staying at these, resorts and this and that. All right, great. Then we'll put everything on a square table. If you believe Trump has done something, then let's bring it all out, all the evidence out. If you believe he's done something wrong, let's hash that out completely. We're open to that. And let's keep it going with Biden as well. Because that's another thing. How do you not see that you're implying that Biden also did something wrong?
Right. And when you break it down, even if that's why I said let's go from the point of view that what Trump did was wrong.
Yeah.
And so you take the worst possible scenario for Trump. If that's the case, Biden looks 1,000 times worse unless you go to the fallback position that they don't even realize they've gone to, that the entire Biden family is corrupt and using Joe, and Joe doesn't know about it.
Exactly.
Which nobody is buying.
No.
They may be trying to sell it, but nobody's buying that.
I mean, it went nowhere yesterday.
I know. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, the Epstein list, second batch of documents coming out. And again, it's, if you're looking for a smoking gun that, would get Bill Clinton, it's not there. You have hearsay stuff, and it's extremely disturbing because we all know what was going on there.
Yeah.
Who exactly was involved, still that the solid evidence doesn't exist.
Right.
But the fact is, we all know what was going on there.
Yeah.
And it was evil, it was perverted, and you had many of the elite in our society that were involved basically in, being pedophiles.
Yeah.
They were. So we'll get to that. What was the other thing I wanted to get to? Oh, Mayorkas. Duh.
Oh, yeah.
Mayorkas out there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm.
Just.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you gear up for the battle, and you look at what's going on the border, and you and I both follow along. We're here in a border state, following along with what authorities are doing. But then, with Mayorkas and his attitude, it will be interesting to watch this whole thing on, his impeachment and the discussion of all that play out. But wow, his arrogance knows no end.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara.
Hi.
Let me reassess this entire thing.
All right.
We had who was it earlier this week that we played the audio cut that was Senator Chris Murphy.
Yeah.
That was talking about the fact that we need a 4-day work week to cure loneliness.
All right.
Well, I mean, we've had a 3-day work week this week. I like this 3-day work week thing. I'm less lonely.
That's right.
Anybody buy that one? I was much less lonely.
That's right. Yeah.
Look, I had fewer lonely moments this week.
Let's go to a 0-day work week. How about that?
And why? Because I had 2 additional days to sit on the recliner with my cat.
That's right.
That was one of the most. They're just making stuff up now. I mean, that was just amazing.
It's bizarre.
They're just absolutely bizarre. The loneliest thing, and then I want more people going to church.
Yeah, right.
And what was the other thing?
Churches and what was the other thing?
Wasn't golfing. I know that.
No, some other activity.
Oh yes, public swimming pools.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Brian. Public swimming, which is bizarre. No, seriously, that's a punchline.
But I mean,
we want them involved in churches and
number one,
public swimming pools.
They're making up the problem.
Yeah, right.
Loneliness is worse than ever before.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about? Most people live in urban areas and cities now.
Yeah, right.
Probably a lot more lonely people when everybody lived 10 miles from each other.
Right.
I mean, it's like they make stuff up. It's like, all right, we can't win on any issue here. What are we going to do? All right, let's tackle loneliness. The federal government is going to tackle loneliness, and the way that we tackle loneliness is a 4-day work week.
No, seriously. They run out of causes.
Yes.
The left has finally run out of causes. All right? We got now 278 different genders. All right? So they solved that one. They've moved on. They're practicing, many of them, not all of them, practicing full-on anti-Semitism.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now it's like, okay, what else?
We've institutionalized racism.
Right.
The left has.
And let's see.
We've got that. So
what's the next cause?
Loneliness.
Somebody over in the corner quietly. Loneliness. I'm sorry. Did you say Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
I'm sorry. Who are you
when
again?
you said somebody in the corner, I was thinking of somebody at work. I was thinking of Milton from Office Space. I burned down the
maybe loneliness
right loneliness. I'm lonely. I don't associate with anybody. I sit in my cubicle and then I go home.
with my stapler. I mean, the thing is that it's just so bizarre. It's so weird that you just picked that out of thin air to launch this, and to cure the
Secure the loneliness.
we're going to give you Fridays at the public swimming pool and Sundays at church. I'm sorry, what? I mean, it's just weird.
I think if we had a lot more social drinking, we would have less loneliness.
Yeah. We'd also have less people going to church, but I guess that's going to be the case anyway. Not sure.
But that was the best tie-in. I mean, it's delusional thinking. Well, we've got loneliness as this problem. I'm Senator Chris Murphy, and we need to solve the loneliness problem, the lonely problem. And so how we do that is have more people go to church and community pools, and we can do that by having a 4-day work week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. The government's going to help you be less lonely. Uncle Sam wants you to get a friend. I mean, where did you go with it? How do you even write that campaign?
Well, and the thing is, when I was younger, I had a ton of friends.
Uh-huh.
And then you move away, and you still keep your core friends. In fact,
Right.
next week I'm going to see my buddy Jerry and his wife Mary, who I've known since we were bill collectors.
It's a Gary, Jerry, Merry weekend.
Yeah, Gary, Jerry, Merry weekend.
It's a very merry Gary, Jerry,
Yes.
Merry weekend.
And so gonna fly into Tampa just for and one of the things was we said we see each other once a year, and it's like we live far away, and you never know at our age, so it's like we need to get together. We need to get together and
do what old people do. Go to Florida.
But no, exactly. but I had you had lots of friends, and as you get older, you just move away. You do stuff,
right.
and it's like you have less friends and less friends, and it's like, okay, if you're less friends and less friends, and you're actually socializing less, you must be getting lonely. And then I realized, no, it's sort of a goal now not to bring anybody else into my life.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm embracing loneliness.
You go to your porch, it's like, who are you? I'm just the mailman. I'm just dropping this off. Okay, make it fast, buddy.
I mean, my goal is to be Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino.
Yeah. You kids get off my lawn.
I'm alone, and I like it that way.
Exactly. And it's like we're going to cure loneliness.
I know that.
Well, I mean, it could be, the next thing could be, a commune would help loneliness. That's what would help loneliness.
Oh, my
God. A 4-day work week, where you have a government job.
Well, the mansion called the mansion. The Manson cult. The mansion.
Two very different cults, by the way. Both of them are weird in their own way.
Well, the funny part about I might have had a good joke coming up, but the funny part was the mansion cult instead of the Manson cult, because they weren't lonely.
Yeah.
They did things together.
Right. And then Mansion lives on a boat.
Mansion.
So, what is going on there?
Oh, my God, that's just, the idiocy of that.
Well, no, it's, and then the whole thing, when Brian told us in our ear the other thing.
Yeah, because we had forgotten it.
Because it sounded like a punchline. Public pools. We want to get people back to church. More time for church and public pools. I mean, I don't know what you're smoking, but you're smoking something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really good stuff or really bad stuff.
But you're smoking something. I mean, I think it's indicative of the fact that the Democrats really have run out of causes. They've run out of things to provide. It's funny because I told you during one of the breaks, I had said last year I think they're going to get back to the probably talking about it's election year. They're bound to do this, lowering taxes for the poor, child tax credit, maybe bringing back the expanded child tax credit for a bit or something. And the story came across yesterday, or I saw it yesterday. The talk has been on Capitol Hill for months now, and it's just staffers going back and forth. And apparently it's bipartisan. And one of the conversations is bringing back the expanded child tax credit. If you're going to do something, if you're going to bring something up, Murphy, on a talk show, make it be something that people can understand. Lowering taxes, expanding the child tax credit, things like that you do in a political year. Oh, we want to cure loneliness and put people in public pools.
In case people didn't hear when we talked about it, I have the audio cut.
Okay, all right, we got to hear this.
He was on State of the Union.
Yeah, all right.
Here we go.
If you talk about loneliness, part of the policy is social media regulation, but it's also free time and leisure time, right? Giving people the space where they can go join a church or a social club. It's about connection.
Yeah, you want a 4-day work week.
I want a 4-day work week. I want more functional third places, right? I want more community pools, and I want more vibrant churches.
My God, nobody is screaming for more community pools. Exactly nobody.
By the way, I know that some people can get addicted to social media, but social media to me has actually, when I'm on Facebook, my use of Facebook is not to, promote the politics that I believe in. It's actually to keep in touch.
It's a virtual visit.
It's a virtual visit with all the people that I know.
Right.
In fact, if you're talking about, and I don't know what loneliness is. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I don't know how you define loneliness to begin with. Mm-hmm. John Stossel talked about that because we had brought this up, the whole loneliness thing, when they were talking about that people are less lonely, if they have a 4-day work week, if there's more government funding involved. And Stossel said, no, it's completely the opposite.
Right.
If you do the polling on people that live in more socialist nations are, whatever the definition of loneliness is, and what they called it was, well, can you depend on somebody? And people in more socialist countries were less likely to say they could depend on someone, and the more capitalist you are. But I still think it's sort of a bogus argument even to defend it, because I don't know how you define loneliness.
Well, it's different to everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were married for many years and your spouse is no longer around, that kind of thing. Those are very real situations. But
that would be you really, really, miss that. You really, really miss that person.
Right.
But then it's like, okay, what can government solve that problem of the grief or the loneliness?
That's the point.
Or is that up to you as an individual?
That's the point.
To work through that,
because it
takes time. And
exactly, on an individual level, it could be everything from counseling to actually being more involved in your church. I'm not going to go as far as community pool, but there might be some areas in your community where you could go and gather. But again, we're not talking about this massive, widespread problem. What they're doing is creating a political problem that is not a political problem.
Well, you're creating
it may be a mindset, or it may be an individual issue with a number of individuals. It is not and has never been a political problem, and does not have a political remedy.
Well, you're creating a political problem by saying that this exists when you really can't define that word.
Right.
And then you just throw out things like the 4-day work week will cure it, where there's no evidence that a 4-day work week would cure loneliness.
Right.
And as we said, well, no, actually, if you have to go to work another day of the week, you're interacting more with people.
Right.
So, and so to sit there and say a 4-day work week, that more people will go to churches, there is no evidence that exists that says that's the case.
Right.
And there's no evidence that exists that more community pools.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ludicrous.
It is bizarre.
It shows you how degraded it has become in D.C. It shows you that when we give government the kind of power, big government, the kind of power, when we don't follow what the Constitution, said, states should really be in control of what happens.
Right.
When you have the federal government that can borrow money, well, then they will manufacture a crisis. They'll manufacture and make up problems that they can't even define it, and then just make up out of the top of their head what would solve the problem that they can't even define.
Right. Yeah. And it's again going out of their way to try and define something in order to create a problem that there's no way they can provide a remedy for, but you create a system, essentially a government program or set of programs in order to justify the spending based on a true emotional connection that people may have. That it's always this noble idea. We're going to cure loneliness. Think about that. We're going to cure poverty. We're going to cure all of these things as government. It's always this noble-sounding idea, and quite often comes with a very deep-based emotional foundation. Everybody says, yeah, every once in a while I may be lonely. And, hey, hold on a second. Did he say 4-day work week? Oh, man.
Man, I'm really
I could get out of here on Thursday? Oh, man, I'm so lonely. I mean, in the age of quiet quitters. Are you kidding me? Why does it have to be a 4-day work week? Why not 3?
Yeah.
How about a 4-day weekend?
Right. The quiet quitters are already on a 4-day work week.
Right. Why does my boss get most of my time? He gets most of my days. It's not fair.
It's not fair
Yeah.
that you spend more time with me than your wife.
That's not fair at all. It's truly not fair. That's really disturbing, actually.
All right.
My wife seems to be okay with it, though. I don't know why. I can't explain that.
I just love it.
But these are
They're losing on climate change and racism, so now they've decided, let's jump onto loneliness.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's float that out there.
Loneliness is a great one. You can't define what it is, and we'll just make up what a solution to loneliness would be.
Right. Exactly.
And then we'll claim we care.
Yeah, and our solution is going to be 4-day work week. Everybody loves a 4-day work week.
Right.
Just say 4-day. Hey, look, people are lazy. We're thinking 4-day work week. Just say it. Quiet quitters. Come on. You're with us, right? 4-day work week. Come on.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Leased owner-operators should be aware of 4 common revenue myths, lest you fall into the trap of mistaking revenue for profit. Myth 1, concentrate on increasing revenue because costs will take care of themselves. This is not true, as costs are fundamental to the profit equation and the area where owners exert the most control to improve. Myth 2, more revenue per mile is the answer to all problems. Though carrier pay packages differ in structure, revenue per mile really doesn't change much from company to company, but there can be a big difference in miles, overall gross revenue, reimbursements, and fees. Myth 3, all you have to do to be successful is run a lot of miles. In reality, revenue is only half of the profit equation. Costs are the other half. It's possible to generate a lot of revenue, yet spend $1.10 to make every dollar. Myth 4, you can tell how well you're doing by the size of your settlement check. The settlement check is only a part of the success picture. Miles driven, loads hauled, conditions, mechanical problems, time off, and especially costs all have to be considered. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. One more thing on the whole Because to me, that was one of the highlights of the week. Because it's like, where are the Democrats going to go next? Okay, they're losing on racism. They're losing on anti-Semitism. They're losing on the debt. They're losing on the border. Where will they go next? And it was Senator Chris Murphy on CNN this past Sunday talking about the fact that we need to cure loneliness, and the way to do it is a 4-day work week.
Yeah.
Actually, when you think about it, and I know one of the reasons that I've never really thought much about, whether I'm lonely or not is I'm always busy.
Yeah, right.
There's always another goal. There's always something that I'm looking to accomplish and do that. And if you have a very, very busy mind, then you don't even have the time to sit there and go, well, I wish I was around people, or more people, or whatever loneliness is, however you wish to define it. When you're busy and trying to accomplish things, and you're constantly busy, you don't have time to be lonely.
Right. Stay busy.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Now, this is just really weird. I mean, this is really, really weird.
Yeah.
What are the algorithms for things like Twitter and stuff like that? Because we were just talking about the whole loneliness thing and Chris Murphy earlier this week. And just, where Democrats are going. It's like they're trying to make up problems.
The government's going to cure loneliness.
So I'm not kidding. I had Twitter. I was looking at Twitter on my phone. So I go back onto it during the break, right when we got into the break.
Yeah.
I scrolled down 2 places, 2 stories.
Right.
NBC News. Loneliness increases the risk of premature death by nearly 30%, according to a report from the U.S. Surgeon General. The report also said those with poor social relationships have greater risk of stroke and heart disease. Loneliness poses health problems and can lead to smoking. And widespread loneliness in the U.S. also poses health risks as deadly as smoking a dozen cigarettes daily.
Wow.
Declaring that this is the latest public health epidemic. And I'm wait a minute, when did the story, and I looked at the story, it came out May 2nd of last year.
And then all of a sudden floats in your algorithm?
All of a sudden floats
on social media.
In my algorithm, but it comes up from 29 minutes ago as if NBC News put it out 29 minutes ago.
That's weird.
I mean, it's really weird. But that's the whole thing. The U.S. Surgeon General comes out and says loneliness. And so then there has to be a government solution to it, a federal government solution, which you had Chris Murphy talking about earlier this week. More churches, more community pools. I just love the community pool one.
Pools.
That's the best. That's the best.
Listen, we want them to be able to go to a community pool. It's like, you should have stopped at churches. Nobody bought into the churches line. But you should have stopped there.
Yeah, you're a Democrat talking about promoting churches.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
They booed God at the DNC back in 2012.
Right.
They booed God.
Right. And now they want to give you more time for churches. Right. That's how desperate they've become. I mean, come on, church. People like church, right? I mean, seriously. Come on, who doesn't like church?
But that's just deeply weird that it came up in the algorithm. I'm like, wait a minute, did this story just come out? And then I look and it's like May 3rd. I'm like, well, this shows NBC released it 29 minutes ago.
Well,
when we started talking about it.
Yeah, that's really weird. And by the way,
if somebody at NBC, are you listening? And did you do that because we were talking about it, or was it
trolling
the
us?
algorithm?
Are you trolling us? It's not fun. But you got to go back to the wheels that were moving in Murphy's mind as he's talking. The church, and then he's thinking, oh wait, I've just offended atheists. What are atheists like? Ooh, swimming. They like swimming. Atheists love swimming.
That's what was going through his mind.
I got to be inclusive for atheists. Let's see, and community pools for non-believers. I mean, what?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
but that's a great point. That might have been going through his head. Thinking about how the left thinks.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, geez, we just said churches. Oh,
churches.
Well, what about people that are lonely that aren't religious?
Atheists like swimming, right?
Yeah.
Well,
wait a minute. Are you saying that one of the cures is a Democrat saying one of the cures to loneliness is church?
Mm-hmm.
And is that going to be something that the Democrats are going to promote?
Yeah. I want to see that at the DNC, downtown Chicago. Come on, go for it.
And
we're waiting.
And not only going to church, but following the rules and regulations
right.
of church.
Yes, just like you have to do at a community pool. The whistle goes off. Adult Swim. Seriously, his mind's going, oh, no, I just offended atheists. What are atheists like? Oh, swimming. They love swimming.
Is that what happened? Was he actually saying, oh, my God, I said church.
Well,
I forgot I'm a Democrat. I can't say church. I can't say church cures anything.
I got to go for something different. What is it? What can it be? Swimming. My gosh. Seriously, because it's so bizarre.
I think there'd be less loneliness if we all learned to do the cannonball.
There you go. I'll start it. But I'm going to start off the high dive. Belly flop. Ouch!
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Community pool. All of a sudden, there's an outbreak in bacteria in community pools that are overly crowded in the summer of 2024. It seems to be a new epidemic, and local authorities don't know why this is the case. It may go back to comments from Chris Murphy earlier this year.
Well, wait a minute. Because of, remember, with people not wanting to go into work anymore.
Yeah.
People working home alone.
Yeah.
Where, remember, they're more likely to drink at work.
Mm-hmm.
And they're home alone.
Yeah.
They're not with a bunch of people.
Right.
Explain that one to me. Oh, but this would be so much fun.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier this week. Well, wait a minute. Many people, they socialize at work. I mean, those are the other people they see. You're telling them to go home and be alone.
Remember when it became fashionable in the tech industry where we want our employees to do everything at work. So, So remember, we have gyms and we have parties and
laundromats
and laundromats and daycare,
cafeterias.
Your entire and I'm sitting there I never forget when they were talking about that. I'm like, hell no. I don't want to bring my personal business into work every day like that.
Well,
have everything related around work and having to party with people.
You could run errands in the company car. They had EVs parked out, and I think this is at the Google campus, at one of the Google campuses, or the main one. And they had EVs that you could borrow. You basically check it out like a library book and go run your errands. Well, what errands do you need to run? You got everything here. You know, I mean, all they need to do is put bedrooms in, and you're going to be essentially in a prison.
All right, this goes back 30 years ago, but I was working at one radio station, and it wasn't the person who hired me, but the person above them, like the general manager.
Yeah.
Really, really just, I don't know, he just liked me.
Mm-hmm.
And, he had been divorced and all that. He goes, you're single. He goes, come on out. He'd always want me to go out Friday night with him to like happy hour.
Wow.
And it was all of his friends.
Right.
And all and we were in our 30s.
Right.
And, he was divorced, but I'll never forget. It was like the first one I went to, they were talking about the music they were into, and everybody was into like Barry Manilow, and I'm like, oh God, get me out of here. I would rather sit at home alone for the rest of my life
exactly.
than socialize this weekend.
Singing Eric Carmen all by myself. Oh, my gosh. Anything rather than this. Seasons in the Sun over Barry Manilow. Goodbye, my friend. It's hard to die.
And they were talking, talking about, whatever. It was all like soft rock stuff, and I'm like,
yeah.
Get me out of here.
That would be torture for me.
And I don't know how I got out of it, but somehow I got out of it. I went once and didn't have to go again. I don't remember how I did it though.
Well,
but somehow I got out of it.
Because back then you didn't have a Bluetooth speaker. I was thinking how I would do it. I would find a way to play some Judas Priest really loud. I don't know how I'd do it, but I'd find a way.
Those are moments you always remember, though. You're like, I didn't want to go to begin with. I'm like, I don't want to become too friendly with the.
Yeah.
I like to keep my distance in this business. You want your autonomy once you get in the studio, and
right.
You don't want them to have your ears. Like, why don't you talk about this? Now that we're buddies, I think you should do this, and I think you should do this. And
hey,
so,
the Southwest chapter of the Barry Manilow fan club is meeting this weekend. You want to go?
Oh, but that's the thing I remember is the Barry Manilow stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and he was coming in concert, and it was like all like the soft rock kind of thing. And we're going to this show. Hey, Gary, would you like to go? If I have the opportunity, I'll be the first one in line. It's like, I'm telling you, I was faking being social more than I ever have in my life at that happy hour.
Yeah.
And the thing is, over 30 years later, it still burned into my mind how much I didn't want to get involved in that.
Right. Yeah. It's like these people. Seriously. This is how bands like Air Supply get formed. That's how it happens. Hey, you know what? And we'll call it Air Supply. It just reeks of soft music. Someone caught off my Air Supply, please.
But then remember, was it like 20 years ago or 25 years ago when, remember the band Savage Garden?
Yeah.
I actually know somebody said I wouldn't listen to that kind of music. They were like an Air Supply.
Yeah, right. Savage Garden.
Like Savage Garden.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, they'd be pretty heavy. It's like
It's like the Liquid Death, the drink. It's water. It's flavored water. Liquid Death. And it looks like a huge energy drink. Yeah.
Yeah, you're sort of overselling that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You can look cool while drinking water. Yeah, it's I totally would have gotten out of that. I just sorry guys, I may be having a heart attack. I got to go. You're only 30 years old. I know, but
then I did meet at that station. I did meet some friends that are still friends of mine today.
Yeah,
So and we did socialize, but
right.
It was like, there's got to be something. I just don't want to socialize.
Right.
You want to socialize with people that you have somebody who has, I think, an interesting background. And, I saw this the other day where people said, don't ask people, so what do you do? Because then you stereotype them by what they do.
I went,
that's stupid. What is this, another liberal thing?
Right, yeah.
Well, of course I'm going to ask somebody what they do.
Right.
Because they do it every day. They spend the majority of time doing it.
It's interesting.
And I have a general interest in people doing different things that I do.
Right.
And so when they're willing to talk about it, whether it's positive or negative, it's still interesting. Oh, man, don't go into this business.
Right.
This really sucks. But there's this and this, and I may go into here.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Well,
yeah,
what do you do? I'm the backup singer for Air Supply. I'm sorry, you're not even the lead singer? Yeah. What does he do? He's the bass player. The bass player?
Or Equalizer One.
Yeah.
What did you do before this? I was a pip.
Yeah, exactly. I love that line. It's like, a pip?
Because what?
Young guys didn't know what it was.
Goes a pimp?
Yeah.
No, a pip.
A pip.
Gladys Knight.
Yeah, right.
So they go back and look at old videos, and they're looking at the backup singers going,
is that him?
Yeah, maybe him.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, younger, but yeah, that could be him.
If it was Gladys Knight,
yes.
Oh no,
Pips,
all day. I would have been more into that conversation. Going,
all day.
that'd really be an interesting. That'd be an interesting,
all day
artist to see
all day.
Yeah,
yeah. I would have said, hey, why aren't we standing in line already for the show?
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, the border situation and the interesting things that happened yesterday. Adams now suing the charter bus companies for $700 million. Not going to win that one.
No, you're not.
They have every right. Yep. People have every right. Once remember, they can't win. He can't win it because, as we've stated before, we've stated that once the government says that you are in here. That you're in here and you have a date, you're in here, technically you're here legally at that point.
Yeah, right.
And that's why we've said, it's like, well, the illegal immigrants are in here, and then the whole difference of the vocabulary. Is it a legal immigrant? Is it a migrant? Whatever. Mm-hmm. But as we know from this, once you're in the country, if you wish to take a bus ride, you can take a bus ride and somebody can pay for that bus ride.
Yep.
There's nothing you can sue anybody on. And it was fascinating yesterday to watch Mayorkas, and we'll have this audio cut coming up, talk about the fact that, and this governor, he's not cooperating with other states. Why isn't he cooperating with other states? He needs to cooperate with other states. This is the new talking point.
Yeah.
That since he's not cooperating, just sending them to different places, he needs to cooperate.
Right.
And it's just like, well, don't you need to cooperate and stop what's going on at the border
and reverse your sanctuary city policy?
Yeah.
That's one thing Adams has not done, and they politically have the power to do it. They have the makeup.
But I mean, Mayorkas to close the border.
Yeah, right. Blaming it, by the way, on Congress. So, the problem is with Congress. Are you kidding me?
And we'll go through it again because you've got to go point by point by point.
Yeah.
And the left and the Democrats don't want you to do it.
Yep.
They want to be able to throw in a statement and then that's it.
Yep.
Doesn't work that way.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Hello.
I almost said the Happy New Year thing, but you can't do that.
Can't do that. We're
after
done
January
with that.
3rd.
Let's move on.
Yes.
It's no longer new. It's like Kiss FM. Stop saying the new. It's been 55 years of the new. No. Stop it. Stop it right now.
My favorite slogan, and I actually heard it one time.
Mm-hmm.
The voice came on the radio and said, "You're in the middle of an uninterrupted hour of music."
Well, not now.
Well, then why are you talking?
Yeah, it
Actually,
it started over now. You just interrupted it.
It's like I'm not in the middle because you just started it. You started the clock again.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hit the whole border stuff.
Oh, man.
As the Republicans are threatening to impeach Mayorkas, he's making the rounds, and it's time to tear apart everything point by point by point.
All right.
Because Democrats believe they can win if they don't tell you the entire story, if they don't tell you the truth.
Right.
And the border is the absolute perfect example of it. For example, we all know. We know what the problem is. The people of the United States, it's not just Republicans, the people of the United States want a closed border, and then after a closed border, they will consider legal immigration and what we should do at that particular point.
Mm-hmm.
The American public is not against legal immigration. What the public is against is illegal immigration and what the administration is doing by not upholding the law. We have addressed the criticisms of the Democrats, which is, oh, the Republicans don't want Border Patrol agents. Well, yeah, they do, but they want Border Patrol agents working at Border Patrol jobs to keep illegal immigrants out of the country.
Right.
Not to help process the millions of people you've allowed in the country that don't have legitimate reasons to be here.
Yeah.
You know, they're not being persecuted. They don't fit under the law.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mayorkas, the Republicans are simply saying, if you want money, then we need to know that this money is going to go for detention centers and to help you enforce the law that you're not enforcing. They won't go down that path. Even CBS yesterday called out Mayorkas. Let's hear this audio cut here. This is CBS. Here we go.
Because of the standards at the border and the flow issue that Republicans have identified, Democratic leaders, mayors, governors, they're struggling. Governor Abbott in Texas is busing people to different states. They're showing up on doorsteps. They're in the streets. They can't work. They're hungry. They're begging. It's a big, big problem. What is the White House willing to do to come to the aid of your fellow Democrats who say, we need help?
So a few things. Number one, we have sought and received some funding from Congress to assist mayors and governors in addressing the migration challenge. But let me ask you a question. Do you think it is responsible governance for one governor to refuse to coordinate, communicate, cooperate with other state officials around the country and just unilaterally bus people to another locality without informing the receiving locality so that we can work together to address a challenge that our country faces? Is that the type of patriotism and governance that we expect of our officials?
I think that both parties are playing games and have been for decades on this issue, and you're not talking about the fundamental point of contradiction. The Republicans want a stop to the flow with very specific ideas. You're not even talking about those ideas this morning, and so both sides are playing politics as they have been for a very long time.
I guess that's the best CBS could do.
I was going to say meeting in the middle, right?
Right.
That's basically the best you're going to get from CBS, which by their standards is I don't know, pretty blunt. Again, by their standards.
Well, you simply address and say, why don't you want the border closed? Why won't you? And by the way, Brett Baer asked him, if this money, the Republicans will give it to you if all the money goes for detention centers and to enforce the law and close the border.
Right.
He said, would you be willing to agree with the administration, be willing to agree with that? And he just went on to say, well, we need money for this. We need money for this.
Right.
He didn't answer the question.
Right. That's not a yes.
Because we know he doesn't want to close. Does any Democrat really believe that the administration is doing anything to really close the border?
Well, that's
nobody buys. The polls show nobody buys it.
That's as close as you're going to get to an admission from Mayorkas that they have no intention of using that money the way the GOP wants them to use that money, and that is to enforce the border and not use it to process more people through.
Well, I would say, well, since you changed the stay in Mexico and the visa requirements,
right,
allowing people to stay in, so you're not following the law, why isn't the federal government cooperating Why isn't your administration, before they do this, ensure that the funding from Congress is there to do it and coordinate with border states?
Right.
You can't win the argument, Mayorkas.
No, he can't. His arrogance rules, and you saw it in full display yesterday.
Bill Maloogian from Fox, who's really Fox LA, that's been really covering this. There probably isn't anyone who's covered the border more over the last couple of years than Maloogian.
Yeah, more thoroughly, and I mean, like a boots on the ground kind of thing in terms of reporters.
He goes, Mayorkas' interview with Brett Baer tonight revealed major discrepancies in the Biden administration. And this is, again, it's easy to point out the Democrats want you to live in the bubble of today, but the lies have been consistent.
Right.
Press secretary in May claims that the Border Patrol is allowing mass releases are categorically false. That was in May. Mayorkas yesterday, more than 1 million releases per year, acknowledged at least 70% release rate currently. Press secretary, this is Karine Jean-Pierre, last month, said what's happening at the border is not unusual. It's just ebb and flow. Mayorkas yesterday, the numbers are historic. The numbers are extraordinarily large. Mm-hmm. This is the same guy that has been telling us the border is secure. The pathological line continues.
Right.
Why can't the Democrats just be honest what they want? Because they know the American public won't agree with it. Now let's go to the governor of Texas, Abbott, yesterday being interviewed on Fox News and talking about the Democrats and their responses, everything from the Department of Justice suing Texas over the state border security law, Adams now going after the mayor of New York, going after suing the bus companies, which, by the way, you don't have a case.
Yeah, there's nothing. Sorry.
That shows you how bizarre it is. But here he is yesterday.
Well, Dana, something has been revealed during this entire episode, and that is the very real hostility that Democrats have against illegal immigrants. You know, they profess to be sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. They want to welcome them in until they actually do come in. And then when they come in, they say, no, we don't want them here. We want to send them back to Texas. They're for illegal immigration, as long as it's Texas and the border states that have to deal with that illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. Second, Dana, it's absurd to think that New York doesn't have the room for it, New Jersey doesn't have the room for it. They think Eagle Pass or Del Rio, Texas has the room for it. You know, we have more people coming across our border every single day than what New York gets in a week or a month. Mm-hmm. And so it's outrageous that they're saying that they cannot deal with this. But the last point, Dana, is the fact that there's only one reason why this is happening. And that's because Joe Biden has eliminated all of the 4 policies that Donald Trump put in place that led to the lowest illegal border crossings in 40 years. The Remain in Mexico policy, the Title 42 policy, the end of catch and release, and building a border wall. If the Biden administration was enforcing the immigration laws passed by Congress, the mayors of New York, the leaders of New Jersey and Chicago, et cetera, they would not be having these problems.
Who wins that argument? The administration or Abbott?
Abbott all day.
Yeah.
And this is the problem that the administration has. That reality is hitting everywhere. That it is no longer cities like Eagle Pass and Del Rio that are having to deal with it. And while D.C., New York City, and Chicago don't. It is playing out over and over and over again, and you know that they're losing the battle here as this reality hits, and every town, as we've been saying for years, every city is a border town. This is everyone's problem. And you know that they're losing it when the best they can come up with is, oh, this is Abbott's fault. Nope. Biden.
Well, we all know. I mean, because they're trying to make the argument that because, well, we've asked for money before for Border Patrol agents, and the Republicans won't give it to us. Well, we know what the truth is there. The truth is the Republicans are not going to give the administration money unless they can guarantee that that money is used, and those Border Patrol agents are used not to process migrants into the country because of the open border, but to close the border. Yeah. We all know that.
Yep.
Every Democrat listening right now knows that. So Mayorkas and the administration and Karine Jean-Pierre, whomever is making the argument, they have to lie. They can't tell the American public the truth. And so eventually Americans start thinking to themselves, well, why the hell are they doing this? Why would you do this?
Right.
Why wouldn't you close the border? Because I think most reasonable people would say, all right, let's close the border and get back to a legal immigration system.
Right.
And if you're being persecuted, we have rules and regulations by Congress, and we'll do whatever we need to do, but we're not going to have...
And a very narrow set of standards when it comes to asylum.
Right. Very narrow set of those are rules in the law. We're not going to allow everybody in.
Right.
Remember, the one guy who was on TV saying, I'm not claiming asylum for persecution. I'm coming in here because I need a job.
Right. I'm here to work.
I'm here to work. He got, he's got a report like next year or the year after.
Right. And the one lady doesn't have to report until the year 2031 or something.
Yep. And so we know the majority, and so this isn't new. These laws have been in place for a long time. But most reasonable people would say, no, we've got to have a border, and we have to have a secure border. Terrorism is a concern. The cartels and fentanyl is a concern. This is pure insanity to do this.
Yeah.
And so we need to close the border as much as we can, do whatever we can to close the border, and then we have a legal immigration system, and we punish companies who hire illegals.
Right.
It's that simple. This isn't rocket science. It's not hard. And the reason that Mayorkas and the administration is creating this chaos at the border is because they want to create the chaos at the border.
Right.
They knew this was going to happen. Everybody knew it was going to happen when they did it. It was predicted it was going to happen. Biden wanted it to happen. When he was running for office, he campaigned that he wanted everybody in the world to come here.
It was an open invitation.
And then it gets down to this particular point because they say everybody has a right. You know, that's what you hear. Everybody has a right to get into the United States. Fine, there's 8 billion people. Does 8 billion people have the right all to come to the United States?
Right. Tell me logistically how that even works.
I mean, it is just pure insanity going on, but they're getting caught in their lies, and we all know. And the American public doesn't buy it. The polls show the American public doesn't buy it at all. But understand that this isn't because they're trying to make this case, we're just being overwhelmed and we have no other choices. Of course you have other choices.
Yeah.
You've chosen not to use the things that were being used in the Trump administration. You refuse to go to Congress and say, our number one job is to close the border and get the legal immigration system moving. He's not going to Congress and saying, we need the money to close the border.
No.
They're saying we need the money to process more millions of people into the United States.
To do more of what we've been doing.
Right. And every Democrat knows it. And if you're saying different, you're lying. And you know you're lying.
The border is secure.
Yeah.
And they keep repeating that. Yep, it's secure for anybody who wants to come across.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And the other thing with Mayor Adams of New York, $700 million lawsuit against the charter bus companies, Which that was done to try to scare them out of doing it.
Go big, intimidate them,
Right.
And then they'll not want to participate. My question would be, what about a countersuit? Because if the court finds, well, there's no basis, from the city of New York, for the city of New York to sue here, and the countersuit would be, okay, all of our legal expenses,
right,
and troubles that we had to go through as a result of this bogus lawsuit. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard that. But the fact of the matter is it's a desperate attempt by Adams and New York to try and stop what's going on. Reality hit a long time ago. They're not going to be able to stop this.
As Abbott on Thursday said, he said that Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, said that New York City's lawsuit is baseless and deserves to be sanctioned. It's clear that Mayor Adams knows nothing about the Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution or about the constitutional right to travel that has been recognized by the U.S. Supreme Court. Every migrant bused or flown to New York City did so voluntarily.
It was their choice to be there. And now you are impeding their choice to move about freely.
Not only did they do it voluntarily, but after being authorized by the Biden administration to remain in the United States. As such, they have constitutional authority to travel across the country that Mayor Adams is now interfering with. By Mayor Adams not allowing the buses to go, he's actually breaking the Constitution.
He's impeding their constitutional right to
travel,
move about freely.
Right. As such, they have a constitutional right to travel across the country that Mayor Adams is interfering with. If the mayor persists in this lawsuit, he may be held legally accountable for his violations of the Constitution.
Right.
This is beautiful. This is just beautiful.
Yeah, it's just going to, again, another boomerang. It's going to come right back at him hard.
The Bonus Show.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you want if you cannot listen live overnight. So, yeah, it's going to get interesting here on the border. They can't win it. I mean, it's fascinating. If everything wasn't so destructive, it is extremely entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
It's very entertaining to watch people constantly lie to the American public over and over and over and over again on something that they're having no success convincing the American public that their side is right.
Right, yeah.
And so what they're trying to do now is just we saw what they were doing in the beginning. The border is secure. Well, that was the biggest lie. The border was never secure.
No.
It's been pure insanity since Biden took office and put forth his executive orders on day one.
He made it clear it was part of his campaign. This is exactly his intention. He invited people here, including anyone who had been deported during the Trump years.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yep.
We want you here. And now Mayorkas, when asked the question, look, Congress is willing to give you the money as long as you use it for what they want you to use it for. And he's sidestepping that answer because the fact of the matter is, and the answer should be, well, absolutely. But it never has been, so why would it be now? With Mayorkas, it isn't. It's about processing people through to continue, in fact, ramp up what they have been doing all along.
But then the other lie is that they're trying to sell as they want the border the way that it is. They're trying to sell you that Republicans don't want more Border Patrol agents to close the border.
Right.
They're playing semantics here. They're simply saying they don't want Border Patrol agents. No, the Republicans don't want Border Patrol agents that are simply going to be there to process people more quickly into the country who shouldn't be here. And every Democrat knows that. Yeah. And so the Democrats are trying to pretend, the politicians, Mayorkas, the bureaucrats, the administration, they're actually trying to sell to the American public that they want a closed border and the Republicans don't. I mean, the line and the gaslighting is getting to the point of just it's to the point of complete and total absurdity every single day. And I'll tell you this, when I've been watching Karine Jean-Pierre and Kirby, they all know it.
Oh, yeah.
All the reporters in the White House.
Of course.
They all know. They all know they're being lied to every single day on every issue.
Yep. And it's this is, I think, why they think or why they are changing. Again, it's not moving the goalposts anymore. They're just changing the entire field of play. They're changing the entire game. And they're moving things around in such a chaotic fashion, probably to keep the media busy. I'm guessing they think that's one tactic to, okay, well, now we'll send them down the road of covering the, blaming Greg Abbott for it. And, of course, Greg Abbott has to respond to the media. Listen, send somebody over to, to Austin, Texas, and get a statement from Abbott. Because reality's hitting hard. They know this. Chicago, especially, in New York City, especially. There's no way. Adams politically, and we know this, I haven't looked lately, but Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, his numbers were dismal, his approval numbers in Chicago. Same thing with Adams, because the people of their cities are saying, you're not doing anything about this. And what would be the most obvious move if you're a citizen of one of those cities and you're thinking, well, what is it that they can change? What is it that they can do? Well, they can change the policy officially of being a sanctuary city. They have the makeup both in Chicago and New York City to do it.
Wow.
And they won't.
A month ago, Adams' approval rating a month ago, 28%.
Oy. See? I mean, they're desperate here. This is what they think is action. They think that this, in the minds of their constituents, is doing something, is fighting. But the fact of the matter is, it has to fall empty with the people of New York City and the people of Chicago. I mean, you can see, I think that's a huge part of what's going on.
It's
in
like
both cities.
Remember, they in the very beginning, we need to look at the what do they call it? The source of illegal immigration, and everything else. And it was climate change. It was this, and then they sent Kamala Harris out to find the root causes.
That's right.
I'm sorry, not the source, but the root cause of it. Well, it's very easy for anybody to figure out that the root cause is the Biden administration and what they're doing.
Right.
Abbott's in the middle of it.
It's the open invitation.
Yeah. Abbott's in the middle of it. It's being caused by Biden.
Right.
Does any Democrat not agree with that? I mean, you may publicly say it, but privately, every Democrat listening right now knows that the root cause of what's happening, the insanity at the border and everything in Chicago and New York and wherever else it's happening, everybody knows that the root cause of it is Joe Biden and the Biden administration.
Yeah. Yep. And Jersey, they're dealing with it like Jersey deals with everything. Hey, forget about it. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep moving. You want York, not Jersey. You want the other new. Keep going. But that's what's going on here is the reality is hitting, and they can't face the reality. Johnson and Adams are looking at these dismal approval numbers because the people of their cities are saying, you can do something, or at least they're asking, what have you actually done about it? Adams going on his bogus international tour to tell people, come on, no, don't believe Frank Sinatra. Our city is horrible. It's, it's within their power. Sinatra was a liar.
I just remember when Adams first became mayor. Remember the billboards in Florida? If you're from New York, come on back.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like-
Exactly. Unless you're from another country. That's where they are now.
Exactly.
Think
right.
about that. I mean, that's exactly where he is. I'm sorry, but where are you from? Are you coming here from Florida? Well, sort of. But that's what I would be asking. I'd be asking, if I were a Democrat in one of these cities, I'd be saying, well, wait a minute. What do they actually have the power to do before, going to the administration or blaming it on Texas or whatever? What do they actually have it within their power to do? And that is to reverse sanctuary city policy.
By the way, I want to disagree with the CBS reporter who said both are playing games. Republicans haven't played games. What's the game Republicans have played on the border? Now, if you're saying, well, you see right now, Abbott's playing a game. Abbott's not playing a game.
No, he's not. No, he's
Abbott
not.
realizes after being in office and living in Texas,
Yep.
I think his entire life, he understands that this border problem has been going on for the last 40 years.
He's solving a crisis that is in his state, or doing at least what he can in that regard to say, all right, how do we give relief to our border towns here and do that within the Constitution and within our authority as the state of Texas? And that's what he's doing.
Right. And also what he's doing, because there is a political side and a media side to it. He's doing this because he knows nothing else has gotten the attention of the American public.
Yeah.
If it happens on the border states,
it's
there. The issue of the border chaos now, you hear it all the time. Every place now in the United States is a border city. I've read a couple of articles over the last when I was on vacation, talking about the fact that the Biden administration is shipping migrants to small towns, like towns of 10,000 people, and they'll send them 500 people. It's like, we're a town of 10. We can't handle 500 people.
Right.
What are you doing? And they're dropping them off. They're dropping them off at these little towns. That's not being talked about a lot,
right? Because
they're little towns and they don't get that much publicity.
No media there, right?
But you needed the publicity in order to get the attention. And is the American public, is there attention on what's going on at the border? Do they recognize what's going on in those cities? When you see the approval ratings, for example, of Brandon and Adams, that's a reason. They don't like what's going on, and they know what the root cause is. They know the root cause is the Democratic Party and Joe Biden.
Yeah.
That's why it's happening.
No, you're right. The political effect is, it really is the brightest political flare that has ever been shot up into the air, at least with immigration. The move by Abbott, and to the extent that DeSantis was doing it, brings the light over the entire nation. It lights up the problem over the entire nation. And remember when Bowser in D.C., listen, border towns are equipped to do this. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's like,
are you kidding me?
What the hell are
Do
you talking
know
about?
how small these towns are?
I know.
Do you know what resources they don't have, and how long they've been dealing with it? Well, for ages. And it's been especially problematic since this president took office after campaigning on a promise that we'll bring you in.
Yeah, it's the worst ever.
Yep.
Never been this bad at the border, ever.
Nope.
And the funny thing is, as Bill Maloogian from Fox LA, as he pointed out, he's pointing out how Karine Jean-Pierre was saying one thing, and now Mayorkas is saying something completely different. He should have also put that in this year, Mayorkas has said a few times that the border is secure. Now he's saying it's really, really bad what's going on. Well, it's been really, really bad for 3 years almost 3 years now
Yeah.
since Biden became president.
It's been a steady
yes.
flow of people across the border at a massive rate.
And so Abbott doing that, just because you do something that's political to get the attention of the media does not mean it's immoral.
Right.
It means how are we going to get the people of the United States, how are we going to get their attention as to what we're going through?
Right.
Well, what we found out, and the other thing that's not being talked about is we talked about it yesterday, is roughly it's been how many did he say? It was 160,000. And only, what is it? I forgot. It's only like 30,000 have been sent to New York City from Texas.
From Texas, right. The majority come from the administration.
Majority's coming from the Biden administration is getting them to New York City. That's not being talked about.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's why I know we take a lot of time to break everything down, but you have to. And I think Christopher Rufo on, with the whole DEI thing in Harvard and everything else, that's the point that he's brought up. And if you've listened to this show for any length of time, it's like we have consistently said you've got to communicate the full message.
Yep.
You have to point out, how the Democrats aren't connecting dots, how they're lying by omission, how they'll say things like, well, the Republicans don't want, Border Patrol agents. Well, it's completely ridiculous. Of course they do. But they want Border Patrol agents not to be processing more quickly people into the United States. They want those Border Patrol agents to keep the border closed.
Yeah.
And so it's the line, the consistent pathological line from this administration. And Bill Maloogian's setting that out, going, okay, here's what they're saying then, here's what they're saying now, here's what the left arm is saying, and from the administration, and the right arm saying something completely different just in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
They're lying.
Yep.
And so you ask the question, why are they lying?
Over and over again.
Because it's what they want. They want the chaos that's going on. They believe that the chaos that's going on will help them get reelected.
Yep.
Now,
how,
I don't know how they view this as advantageous because the American public doesn't, but once they get on something, as we've seen, whether it's DEI, whether it's racism, whether it's anti-Semitism, they've doubled and tripled down. When they've been caught now being outright racist and anti-Semitic, they've doubled down saying, absolutely we are. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, the fallout continues from the Harvard debacle. I mean, just more insanity there. It's all coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, yesterday, we saw the battle going on Twitter between Elon Musk and Mark Cuban, where Mark Cuban responded to Elon Musk talking about, any discrimination is wrong. It's just wrong. And then Mark Cuban comes in and says, well, I don't know what's so bad about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he starts, and it's just like, what? And you and I went, is he trying to play stupid? Or is Mark Cuban actually that stupid where he hasn't paid attention to what DEI actually is?
Right.
And it continued yesterday, and Cuban really didn't respond, to anybody who had a good, solid argument,
right,
from what I could see.
Right.
And Elon Musk decided to get into the conversation with him that isn't the debate that's going on.
Yeah.
And so they were debating something that isn't part of the debate. And that's where I'm thinking to myself, is Cuban playing stupid, or is he really that ignorant about what's been going on the last 5 years?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I guess it could be a little of both. You talk about somebody who lives in a bubble. Well, somebody like a Mark Cuban, quite often, I wouldn't, of all the famous billionaires that are in the media a lot, I wouldn't think that a Mark Cuban is that out of touch.
Yeah.
Some billionaires might be the case. So, I mean, I guess it's possible, but how in the world could you be that off base about it and not know what it's all about?
Look, when Cuban was backing Black Lives Matter, we always believed that Cuban was smart enough to understand that police departments are not systemically racist to hunt down and kill blacks.
Right. Yeah.
And that, was a lie, and the NBA was completely and totally manipulated by, a ton of people that wanted to get rich.
Yeah.
And when, what's his name? I got mind blank of the NBA player. LeBron James opened his mouth about what happened in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And he was completely 100% wrong. And the riots ensued. And we said he inflamed what was going on there. Anybody who was a reasonable person, an objective person looking at that, would know that what he did was completely wrong. Cuban was silent on that.
Yeah.
So we know a lot of the owners were just trying to, survive and play along, with it, because they saw the insane wave of intimidation coming at them. You had to agree.
Yeah.
You had to agree with the lie. But with Cuban and even Bill Ackman, the billionaire, who's been behind this whole thing, we're going to pull money, and he's still saying there's a ton of people that have to go at Harvard. He even reached out, and I didn't see the Cuban responded to him. And he said, basically, well, you're arguing what you believe diversity, equity, and inclusion should be.
Not what it actually is.
Not what it is. It's like if Cuban sat there and went, well, the liberals say, they're for anti-racism. They're anti-racism. That's the program, anti-racism, and being an anti-racist is good. Well, we know that under the new definition of anti-racism, you have to be a racist.
Right.
And so it's like arguing that particular point. I don't believe that Cuban is that dumb. Cuban's not stupid. I don't believe, like you, he's a billionaire that I believe is in touch what's going on.
He's too active in the media.
Yes.
And with, I don't know how many different projects. I know he's leaving Shark Tank, and I know he's selling the majority stake in his basketball team, but he has been very, very active in the media. He's not one of those billionaires that I would categorize as, well, I could see them living in their bubble and never having to turn a TV on. Well, he's on every TV.
Yeah. So he knows. Anybody who's paying attention knows what DEI is about.
Right.
You know what critical race theory is about.
Yes.
You know what identity politics is about. And by him saying it, it's like he's playing ignorant, like he's playing stupid, like
right.
I need to be involved in this discussion, but I need not to be involved in the discussion.
Yeah. pretty much.
I need to be involved in the discussion. By not discussing what we should be discussing, I'll discuss something else.
Right.
My personal feelings. Well, your personal feelings of what you believe DEI should be has got nothing to do with the reality of what it's become inside of many industries and inside of colleges today.
Well, we've often talked about the political play of naming an act that is to be, that eventually the intention is to sign it into law. Like, the Affordable Care Act. Well, who doesn't want affordable care?
Or the Inflation Reduction Act.
The Inflation Reduction Act.
That did the opposite.
To be more relevant.
Right.
It's that. And so it's like he's looking at DEI. Well, who doesn't want these things? Come on, Willy Wonka. You know what this is about.
Yeah.
But I honestly believe that, he's quite possibly, at least for the time being, he's in that situation where he feels that's the line he's got to take.
Well, it's a weak line.
Well, it is
it's
a weak
really,
line.
really
And,
weak.
But I think it's with Black Lives Matter, with the whole DEI argument, as someone who is still an owner in the NBA, he probably feels like he's just got to walk the liberal populist line, the liberal line all the time. It's just going to have to. You got to go with the agenda version is what it is. And I would never feel pressured that way. In fact, I would feel like I had an obligation as somebody who has a great deal of influence if I were in that position to say, no, this is absolutely wrong. This actually hurts business. This actually is something that will kill business, not help business. And I don't know. I don't know where it goes. But I guess, I said it the other day. You and I were talking about this when we came in the other night in the pre-show meeting. Once a liberal, you always toe the line on certain things, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, it was so bizarre. And so when it blew up today, and then when Bill Ackman got involved in it, I'm like, whoa. Yeah. Now, I didn't see him respond to that. Mm-hmm. But it was like, well, modern DEI. This is what he didn't understand. He didn't seem to understand it when Musk made the comment about, oh, then we expect to see a different Mavs team out there?
Yeah, right.
If you're really going to practice the DEI?
Right.
But again, you're talking where he's talking, well, diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that I believe in, that, we should have, diverse. Because that's one thing when you talk about diversity, the left talks about diversity as simply physical characteristics and or sexuality.
Right.
Instead of diversity of opinion.
Right. It's not a diversity when it comes to the individuals. It's a diversity based on what they decide those traits are going to be. That we're going to be inclusive of who we want to include.
Right. But DEI is practiced at American universities today is absolutely racist, without question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you can see it, and they're backing it up because, look, this is a Democratic Party where a significant portion of Democrats, not all in Congress, and not the majority in Congress, and I don't believe the majority of Democrats in the nation, but there's still too many. And I do believe it is the majority in many elite colleges in this country that anti-Semitism actually does, is something that does exist at an extremely high level.
Yeah.
And these leaders of these universities, as you could see, my God, when they walked into, the congressional hearing, and Elise Stefanik asked the question, and they responded that way. You and I looked at each other, and our first thought, even though we weren't together when it happened, but we talked about it when we got here in the studio, was, do they have no self-awareness of what they're saying? Do they have no self-awareness? And they are such in the anti-Semitic racist bubble that they just believe everybody must believe the way that they do because Everybody around them does.
Right. I mean, is it that relationship that the NBA as a league has with those universities overall, where you just got to defend leadership to the core, regardless?
I don't know.
All your future players are going to NBA players are going to come through those universities. Maybe not any given university.
Not mostly Ivy League schools.
Not Harvard, but still, right. This isn't exclusive to Harvard. So when you say the mindset is wrong, then all of a sudden it starts to trickle down to the universities that count when it comes to your league. I don't know.
But to show you how nuts it is, Christopher Rufo, who was really the person that really was the point person, and he had to feel alone. Now, when you feel alone, it doesn't mean you're lonely. I mean, alone in defending something. He was or attacking something. He was one of the first to really attack critical race theory.
Yeah,
and talk about the bigotry in it, and talk about how and go after Kendi and everything else. And by the way, I think everything going on here is wonderful. And I think even the Mark Cuban thing playing stupid, because I think he was playing stupid. He knows exactly what DEI is and the problem that most people have with it. It's because you're not judging people as individuals, you're judging them by groups. That is evil. We're supposed to be past that in 2024. And the Democratic Party, as we've said, overall, the majority of Democrats support identity politics. They don't support how far it's gone since October 7th.
Right.
But there are too many Democrats that still support the anti-Semitism.
Oh, yeah.
Because it got to be, we support, reverse racism is actually not racism, is what their point is. That's what they're trying to sell the American public.
Right.
Well, the American public doesn't buy it.
Nope.
Look at the poll when it comes to things like affirmative action and other things like that.
Right.
Americans aren't behind it. And so they've got to lie. That's why the whole movement's called an anti-racist movement. So the racist movement's called anti-racism. The insanity at the border is called a secure border. Everything is what it isn't. But Christopher Rufo,
Inflation Reduction Act.
Inflation Reduction Act. Inflation is good. What you saw the story we did earlier about the one liberal professor saying, inflation, people really haven't felt it because inflation's only on paper. And that's almost to the point of I didn't see how he wrote it and how arrogant he was and how dismissive he was, saying, come on, what are you, nuts? Of course, it's only on paper. You really don't feel what you feel, because that's when it gets into gaslighting.
Yeah, right.
And so, but Rufo, who was the one who fought this and also was the one who helped, take down Gay at Harvard, they're going after him personally, his wife, his college credentials, and he's pounding them every single day back. But he said to this comment that came from a professor, liberal professor, Seth Abramson, Christopher Rufo said, these people are insane. Now they're trying to insinuate that I'm some kind of Russian spy. The desire for revenge is driving them mad. And here's what he actually wrote. It's on Twitter. Not saying he is. I love it. Not saying he is, but if Christopher Rufo turned out to be a foreign agent linked to the Kremlin's allies in Europe, it would possibly be the least surprising thing that has happened in the last 8 years, given that he is proudly self-declared scheme to undermine the United States by fomenting racial and ethnic and religious and gender and sexual orientation and sexual identity divisions domestically is the most effective anti-American plot we've seen deployed against this country in maybe a generation.
Yeah.
So what he is saying is that, again, to them, racism is anti-racism, and the division doesn't come from a racist philosophy, that the division in this country comes, this is what this professor is communicating to me, that the division in this country comes from people who believe that you judge people as an individual. and you promote individuality
Yeah.
and autonomy, and you don't judge people by groups, you judge them as individuals. And if you believe that, according to Seth Abramson, then that is a very effective anti-American plot and one of the biggest anti-American plots in a generation. Rufo is right. He's nuts.
Yep.
It's insanity what he's trying to sell. And every Democrat listening right here, right now, knows that. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. But I am happy the way that the former Harvard president is continuing to, claim she's a victim of racism when the racism and anti-Semitism is what she believes in, because it gives us a great opportunity. Look, the Democrats and the left never want to discuss this. Now they're being pushed back into a corner.
Yeah. Right.
And so now they're fighting back and justifying anti-Semitism and trying to justify their racist beliefs, their identity politics.
Defending it as freedom of speech at one point.
Or that their racism is actually anti-racism, which they can't do. When you get into the minutia of that argument, you're not going to win it. So the longer they stay in the argument, the more opportunity, and this is what Rufo said, the more opportunity we have to defeat their argument because the American public stands with our position.
Yeah, this argument, this discussion is not over.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, the whole Jeffrey Epstein list that has come out, the only thing that it seems that they've directed, wrongdoing, and this would be, being a pedophile, would be Prince Andrew at the moment.
Right. According to the allegations.
According to the allegations, right.
Right.
Now, there is the whole thing that this was coming out, yesterday. The speculation was American intelligence agencies blackmailing people that went to Epstein's Island. We'll see where that goes on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not a lot. We got some correspondence. We talked about it briefly. And what do you guys think about it? Well, I don't know yet.
There's a lot more to be learned.
Yeah,
It's certainly intriguing, no doubt. And I would hope that it would, if there isn't already a desire to further investigations into the whole thing, then maybe what we learned from the documents could be that inspiration. I don't know. We'll see. It's so sickening to think about.
I know.
Because if these allegations are true, these are children. And I just don't, it's just so mind-boggling. It really makes you hope that the allegations aren't true in that sense, that there were no children who were victims.
Well,
but there are too many things pointing to the fact that there.
Yeah, we know there was, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of Prince Andrew or these allegations,
Right.
of these high-profile individuals, because what the intimidation would be, well, it's what I always said about the Monica Lewinsky thing. You have the most powerful man in the world and an intern. Using that power and influence in that way crosses a moral line with most people. With Bill Clinton, it didn't. And so when you look at something like this and children involved, it's maddening. It's just absolutely maddening. But all of this warrants a full review of these documents in order to hopefully further pursue something.
I think it's safe to say that some of the how many total was there? 150.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's safe to say that some of them were involved.
I don't know how you could have this many accounts of it, this many arrows pointing to it, and not have a significant portion of it be true. Sorry, I don't buy that. And that's the sad reality. These victims that, it's just, I don't know, it's so inhumane to think about. These are children.
Oh, it's so evil.
It's just beyond comprehension.
It's pure evil. I mean, you think about it. What type of evil, perverted, filth rests in the minds of people that would be involved in anything like. I mean, it's so disgusting and reprehensible. I mean, could you imagine, and you and I were talking about this off the air, could you imagine you didn't know and you get on the plane and you land on the island and all of a sudden you see men embracing teenagers?
Because my first question would be, is that your daughter? Is that somebody?
Yeah.
Because there's the thing, too, is that if you weren't behaving directly, if you weren't part of that direct behavior, but you witnessed it and you were aware of it and you were in a position of power, certainly to stop it, and you didn't, it's also on you. You helped to make that happen. You were part of those events if you were aware of it and had any influence whatsoever. It's just maddening. It is just maddening.
I know. It's so incredibly disturbing. Even just to read some of this stuff,
right.
you just shake your head going, Those are, I mean, I know emotions talking here, but those are the kind of people I would like to put in prison and throw away the key.
No, that's where they belong. Absolutely where they belong. And the people who were aware of the crimes that were going on and in considerable positions to do something about it. And you didn't? How in the world do you let that happen? You know, you think about the, all the allegations in Hollywood about the producer who was sent to prison, and I forget his name, and all of that. And then you had these Hollywood types that came out, and these are people that had been in Hollywood for a long time. Oh, no, well, we knew.
Harvey Weinstein.
And
I just know because I used to work for his company.
Right.
And,
ago. You know, all of these individuals who had become very powerful in their own right in Hollywood. That means you're in a position of power to protect people. If you know that's going on, it's your responsibility at that point. Sorry, it is. It fell in your lap, but you have to do something. And on something like this, we're talking about people that are victimizing children repeatedly. If you were anyone in a position of power and you were aware of that, and I don't know how you wouldn't be, even if you weren't participating in it directly yourself, there's no way you weren't aware of that. And you did nothing. It's also on you. You have ownership in this. There's no way you don't. It's just sickening. I don't get it. I don't know how in the world you couldn't act, especially if you're somebody with power. And that's who these people are.
I know that's the thing that's the most disturbing is, you get to this point and you're involved in something like this. Well, then what won't you do?
Yeah.
I'm serious. What won't you do?
You have no regard for life. None. It doesn't matter.
You don't.
How, if that doesn't matter to you, then nothing does. Nothing but your own power does.
And I'll tell you one thing, and they talk about, because we've heard this, where everybody knew it was happening and nobody said everything. And same thing with Harvey Weinstein. Everybody knew it was happening. Well, if I knew it was happening,
there's no way I don't say something about it. Everybody's going to know about it.
I couldn't live with myself.
There's no way.
Oh, what? You think I'm afraid? Oh, you snitched. Oh,
damn right I did.
It's like,
thank you.
Oh, you got me on that one.
Yeah.
I'm 10 years old and I'm upset because you called me a snitch. You think I give a damn at that point? Something like this?
And now we're talking in this case children.
Yeah. Just amazing.
Because in my mind, you should also be in prison. You kept it going. You helped to make it happen. You were aware of it and didn't say a thing. You have ownership in it.
Just amazing. We'll see where this, where it all goes, and I don't know where it's going to go with what has been put out so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. It's too early.
Right.
And I haven't even read the second batch that was
right.
that was delivered, so I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to go through, and where do you go at this point?
With Prince Andrew and the stories and the headlines that were coming out as the second batch was hitting yesterday. Jeez. I mean, it's just stomach turning. It's just stomach turning. And by the way, the royal family knows. How do they not know? He's the pariah of the family. They know this. There's ownership outside of Epstein of this series of events. And people should pay. They should have to pay the price. They're not above the law. And as a society, it's especially heinous when you victimize a child.
And the thing is, if everybody did know, that means that there were people that got on that plane that knew what they were heading into.
Yep.
I just can't imagine.
No, there's
just,
no
I
way.
can't.
There's no way.
I just can't
Because
imagine what's in the mind of a.
You're going to hear the talk about it. You're going to hear, even before you get on a plane, you're going to hear the talk about it. There's no way you didn't know. And if you're one of these major names on this list, you could have made one phone call and it was all over.
Yeah.
And those children were in a better place if you did that.
That's the other thing, too. You could have reported it anonymously.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's the one thing when you hear that when you started with the documents coming out, you've heard, so many people saying, well, everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
Everybody knew. Everybody
Right.
was in the know. This was then what the hell type of human beings would know about this and not report it anonymously?
Right. I mean, that special place in hell, they're going to have to add on. They're going to need more room.
Yeah. Those are the days where you sit there and you say, I really hope there is a hell.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope it's a really bad place.
I don't know what your heart is made of. I don't know what kind of individual you are. If you do this and you allow this to happen. Any of these big names, you can't tell me I'm wrong on this, any of these big names that you're seeing on the list. If they were aware, they make one phone call. International authorities shut this down, and those children are in a better place.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just love this article. A new column in the Boston Globe argued that despite a tradition of conservatives complaining of liberal tendencies on campuses, no elite university is driven by left-wing policies or politics.
Sorry, what?
Just lie. Just make it up. Just lie. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, my God.
Well, wasn't it back in the day, Harry Reid in Nevada, that said there are zero undocumented workers working on construction sites in the state of Nevada? I guess just say it and hope people will believe it's true. Wow. Yeah. Deny reality. Why not? I mean, because they know it's one of those so blatantly false statements that the response is, I'm sorry, what did you say? It almost stuns people in their argument when you're, issuing a response to such ludicrousy. That's, I guess what they're hoping for. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, no, we don't even. It's like Warnock, Senator Warnock in Georgia. I don't even know any Democrats who were against voter ID.
No.
What? Well, let us take you around the room and introduce you to the entire Democratic Party.
Well, when you won't change your opinion on policies that fail.
Yeah.
And in order to keep those policies going, you lie about it.
Yeah.
Eventually, your back's against the wall. Where do you go? And that's where we are right now.
Right.
Where
exactly.
It's getting to be just bizarre world.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.